You bet.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
We have nothing to hide. So I will.
Apologies, real quick. I'm so sorry. This is Holly. I was just going to jump in.
Yeah.
Because we are recording, the recording is only going to pick up the person who is speaking or the person that we spotlight. And in order to make this presentation accessible for those using sign language, we're going to need to spotlight the interpreter the whole time. So if I could just ask the interpreters, I will have to jump off the call a little bit later. So if the interpreters would be so kind to spotlight each other during the session, I've made them all co-host, and that way we'll have full accessibility in audio and in ASL during the recorded presentation if we want to share it online. So thanks.
Perfect.
I'll turn it back over to you, Dan.
Perfect. Thank you, Holly. I'm just going to start by saying this presentation really is a culmination of a number of years. I'm going to guess definitely been around for, not guessing, but we have been around for 20 years. And it's been a long process to develop services and things that are changing with the times as access becomes more available, as technology changes, and as the ability to provide these services increases, as well as the things that are happening now within our communities that necessitate that we do a much, much better job in providing accessible communication. So I'm going to, with that, I'm going to move it to Kay. And Kay, take it away.
Again, hello, and thank you for your time today. I want to warn you right up front. I'm terrible about following a PowerPoint. Dan knows that, but for some reason they like to use these. Normally I just use pictures, if that tells you anything about me. So what we want to start out with is really something that all of us know. It's the what and the why of accessible communications. You know, we kind of hit the ground running during Katrina in 2005. We had already, put things in place company-wise, but the barriers were there to get the people out in the community, emergency managers, and, especially in, the areas that were impacted during Katrina and even Hurricane Rita in Houston, is getting, the people that don't deal with the communities like those of you on this call, and getting them to understand why there needed to be access. So we learned a lot of things the hard way. I don't know if I always did it the right way, but again, I learned a lot. I learned that AT&T at the time did not drop Cat5 cables free because it was a disaster. So when I got a bill, I was really shocked. I thought they were doing the same thing I was doing, out there working for free at the time and trying to help everyone that was actually coming in on C-130s, evacuees to Texas. But we know today, and now with the push for inclusion and access, it's awesome that people are looking at the whole community. And I think, there's challenges with every segment of our population, but for persons who are deaf that rely on sign language, I think the challenge is huge, as it is with people who are blind, deaf-blind, hard of hearing, and those with literacy challenges. So with that said, it was an educational process. We knew what, they just couldn't understand why. So it touches on every phase. One of the most important key elements of being prepared before, during, and after a disaster is access to information and communication. I mean, that's a key element for everybody. It doesn't matter if you have a disability or don't, it's important. So this is something that we're going to discuss that, and I hope that, I'm pretty sure most all of you on this call know that people who are deaf that rely on American Sign Language, that means that they're challenged with text messages, websites. We learned this about food banks during COVID when people were needing food and calling us who were deaf, video calling and saying, where can I get food? Where can I get food? But yet, because of COVID, they were being told if they were able to talk to someone, you have to go to the website and register. Those websites weren't accessible. So, and we'll talk about the solutions for that as we go along when we start talking on community, the accessible community portal. But one of the other things that we're doing now that we had not done before, and it came about when 911 introduced text to 911, you know, which is a great, great service. And we're working here with the Bear Metro 911 here in San Antonio in Texas, because we kind of approached them saying, you know, there needs to be a little bit of education on both sides, not just your operators, but even into the community with, you know, whether it be right now, we're focused on kind of the deaf community because we've been involved with situations where deaf have tried to text because of the situation, they couldn't video call and they tried to text for help. And I think I guess there is 911 representatives on here, but I don't know if it's standard. I'm being told there's some standard questions you ask, like, where are you at? And they don't say that. They say, what's your residence? What address are you at? Or what cross street? And the deaf community in our meetings, they're speaking up and saying, I don't know those words. Intersections, just, you know, street name. So bringing this down to a level where, and getting the deaf community and even people who are blind to say, you know, I'm blind, I'm deaf blind, I need you to know this is what needs to be done to make it accessible for me, even when you show up at my location. And that's, again, we're having a real issue because deaf are asking 911, whether they're calling by video or however they're contacting them, please send an ambulance and an interpreter. Well, so far of all the calls we've had, I think one that we've dealt with has actually been provided an interpreter. So that's a challenge, whether the police or ambulance show up, they can't communicate with them. And it puts their life in danger and a lot of other things that have happened, including the incarceration of people that weren't the bad guys in the situation. So, and we can discuss that. And please feel free at any time, interrupt me and ask your questions. So one of the things that we have learned, and the challenges for people who are deaf wanting to reach out to city resources, is that in some areas, I mean, right now, the relay services are able to contact 911. There's still areas where calling 211 is a challenge for people who are deaf, and especially 311. So let me explain that to those who may not know what I'm talking about. If I'm deaf, I have this screen in front of me and there's an operator on it who looks a lot like our interpreter today. I can see her and she's answering the call and she's asking, what number do you want to call? And I would say, I want to call 311. And within a few minutes, she may tell me, I'm sorry, I can't connect you to that number. I may be in Texas and that interpreter may be in Utah, Wyoming, Kansas, Alaska. She could be anywhere. She doesn't know the back number to my 311 where I live. But I was just told that I needed to contact 311 to find out about rental assistance or assistance getting food for my children. So there are these barriers that we need to talk about, and about right now, the best thing you can do, since we don't have a solution, although I do have some suggestions, is advertise that back number behind your 311. So that way it's there. And when I say advertise it, I'm talking about an accessible format. If you put it on your website, most of the community that really needs that information isn't going to get it. So, and there are solutions to that as well. Dan, do you want to go to the next slide, or I'll just keep talking about this for a whole 40 minutes. So one of the things that we've done during, well, actually during COVID, and even way back again to 2005 with Katrina, is making sure that preparedness, notification, response, and mitigation, all of those events need to be accessible to the whole community. And it still requires that grassroots outreach ability. I mean, you're not gonna, you've got a population that may have their TV on, and some who may be able to actually read the captioning that's below it, which I get a kick out of. I don't know how many of y'all keep your caption on. I do, because it's funny, some of the stuff that comes up. I have a lot of people tell me I couldn't understand anything they were saying because it was so messed up. But getting information out to the community is vital. And it's going to take outreach, education on both sides. And that's something that now I'm really pleased that 911 here in Bexar County is actually doing that. And the response is amazing. I mean, they are limiting it to 40 people per event. They're having like kind of an open house and literally showing them from an upstairs area, looking down, showing what their call center looks like.
Kay, this is Cheryl. Can I ask
Yes.
a question?
Sure.
I have seen the crawler that says the sheriff has issued a mandatory evacuation. And go ahead, Cheryl. And it's not audible. And we have people who are blind, and they do not get the message. I have heard audible alerts that the evacuation now, that you evacuate now, and it's audible. And 5 minutes later, a crawler says that the evacuation is lifted. Also not audible. So, that's what our issue is. Well, just a comment. Go ahead.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and we get that a lot. I have a gentleman that works with me, Larry Johnson, who's blind, and he says, you know, I'll hear that sound that they put out when there's something going across the bottom of the screen. He goes, but I don't know what it's saying. And it's basically a barrier to him knowing what to do. And it's the same thing for someone who's deaf. Even though that crawl may be there, it's in a language that the majority of those who rely on sign language, they're not going to understand. So, and for people with vision issues, blind, deaf, I mean, come on. We know that if you're deaf, blind, that is going to be a challenge. And that's why with our alerting system, these alerts would go to a device and raise the dots on refresh Braille readers for people who are deafblind that use Braille. And as we know, the Braille reading population is not necessarily that huge. And there's a lot of people who are blind that do not use Braille. So the voice, the Braille access, the sign language, whether it's voiced in English or Spanish, is critical, because a text alert only alerts the segment of our population who can read it. That's it. So that's quite a challenge. And a lot of those alerts are PDF'd or put into formats that just cause havoc with people trying to get access to them through a Braille reader. So I agree with you. I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's very frustrating. And it's without, having preparedness information, and I can pick on Texas because I'm from here. When there was an evacuation in the coastal areas with a hurricane coming inland, and before landfall, they let the population know that's on the coastal areas, hey, there's buses stationed for those of you that don't have rides out to evacuate. There's all these services available. And this population, whether they're deaf, blind, hard of hearing, or literacy challenged, if it's a text alert, a lot of them aren't getting it. So that is not really preparedness information, but having it on a website saying, these are the steps we take to prepare you for a disaster, or how you can help prepare yourself and your family for this. That's the first step, is learning what you can do to be prepared. And then being able to get the communication, that actual alert, that's actionable. You can't do anything if you can't understand the alert. That's not actionable information. So, and it's interesting that the ADA has a segment that addresses emergency management and says there's a checklist, and it talks about accessible alerts. But for some reason, it's still an option. And I get video calls from people who say, why can they decide that people in this area get to have alerts and we don't? Why are we not any more important than that person? If I had my way, I wish it was statewide for every state. And not just because we do this, we do it for a reason, because it needs to be done. So people says, well, you're touting AHAS and access. Yes, I am. If we're the only ones in the nation doing this and it saves lives, you bet I am. So everything that we do is because no one should have to choose, whether it be an emergency manager or someone in a shelter. They shouldn't have to choose who gets access to information and services. It should be like the whole community. And Dan, I'm gonna let you take this over, or I will run on and on and on. But y'all, please feel free to step in anytime and ask your questions. Hello, Dan.
Oh, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so, that's kind of the why we do what we do. One of the things that was very important during COVID were the things that we learned about information that was not being given to the community in accessible formats. So the bottom line is disruptions in everyday life demanded that there be increased communication to citizens. And so, what we were experiencing was that, for example, in San Antonio, we already had the accessible hazard alert system, and it was the clear-cut ability of that program to reach certain communities. And so we reached out to the emergency management group and said, look, you've got information that is part of this pandemic that needs to be put into the community. So there were things going on that, for example, we began to receive information from the Office of Disabilities here in San Antonio, as well as SAOM and other agencies began to feed us information that was relative to the community and the impact that those agencies were going through and that were impacting the community. So things like face mask rules, COVID-19 testing locations, food bank information. And Kay can speak to that if she'd like. That was a big issue here in San Antonio because frankly, they put out a information to the community in text, and there were deaf that could not register for that support because that information was not accessible.
Well, I do, that is one of I'm trying to be nice here because I was told I had to be nice. We can guess who told me that. But, you know, that was critical information, not that emergency information, all of it is, but when you have deaf families video calling us or turning their phones around and showing us their refrigerator, no food, showing us their kids, you know, that's heartbreaking. And so we set up a bank of my team as well as people from DeafLink, not just Novacom, but DeafLink and No Barriers Communications. We set up computers and video phones and took these video calls direct and then turned to a computer and was registering people for food bank services. And it's interesting because it wasn't just Texas. We were getting calls from all across the United States for, we don't know where your food bank is. So we had to Google and then find out what we needed to do. There were some areas where we could just say, you need to go to this place in your car. And if you pull up, they'll give you food. Then we had families say, well, why don't they have communication there? Because I can't read the labels on the food they're giving me, and my kid can't eat things with nuts or this and that. And they would sign, you know, they would have, anaphylactic shock or reactions to these foods. And they're talking about, it could kill my kid. What do I do? So, you know, we were happy that we could help and do that, but we couldn't be at those sites and read labels on foods for families that couldn't feed it to their kids. So it gets really in-depth, but making a registration page accessible isn't hard to do. And you can use it for the duration that food bank is there, which is years and years and years. So yeah, I do get on my soapbox a tad bit about that. We did want to make one food bank accessible. We did the whole videos of that registration page and information and gave it to them. They never posted it. So for the life of me, I don't know why. I mean, it wasn't like, we're going to make some money off of you right now. It was like, here, we'll give this to you, show the nation how this can be done to help this segment of our population, even those with literacy challenges. It just never happened. So I do get a little snarky when it comes to things like that, because we're interacting directly with the community that needs that, and they're angry, and they have to have someone to yell at. And usually it's me, and that's okay, because I turn around and yell at somebody else. But there's simple solutions to all these barriers. And I'm really proud of the city of San Antonio, because the things that is listed on this PowerPoint, they were things as simple as our bus system suspended charging to ride the bus. They're going, oh, how important is that? Well, you know, that's pretty important if you've got just a limited amount of money to feed your family. And now, you know, I don't have to walk and carry all that. I can actually take the bus and it's not going to charge me anything. It's
Okay, this is Cheryl. Sorry for the interruption. What about a what? A different scenario, like the mass shooting that just occurred there in Texas. Did an alert go out?
we don't serve that area. They don't have our alert system. And you know, it's sad. I've heard back from deaf people who are going, what are they doing if they're a deaf mom and dad there and they're out there? Is anyone there with VRI or, you know, something with iPad so they can ask cops, what about my kid? What about, you know, you're right. All those situations, it shouldn't be a second thought or an afterthought to have that communication available. And we know that the situations impact all families, whether it was a grandmother who might be deaf or any language challenge, it should be met. And you're absolutely right.
Okay, I'm going to move to the next slide.
Well, you can go ahead and talk. I'll be quiet now.
So one of the key things that we do is provide the accessible hazard alert system. Billy, I think you've seen this presentation a number of times, so this is all familiar territory for you. But the accessible hazard alert system was developed by Kay and her team back in 2006. It has gone through a number of upgrades, updates, and all the rest because technology changes. And so we try and stay abreast of all of those opportunities to expand on accessibility. But the AHAS program is a subscriber-based notification system. And basically what that means is that we would have a registration page within your community. We would work with you to do outreach to get people registered in the program. So once they're in the program, then they're set up to be able to receive alerts to devices that are web and video capable, including those that are web-enabled Braille devices. So the alerts are sent out in SMS and email formats. They're with an embedded link in those messages. And you know, we can go through this, but basically they're prepared with American Sign Language video, plain text for persons that are hard of hearing, and English is their primary language. We voice all of our alerts for persons that are blind or maybe literacy challenged. The text formats are compatible, as we said, with Braille devices. And the alerts can include maps or other graphics that are supplied to us by the alerting authority. Go ahead.
Who are you?
Hello? Okay.
No, go ahead, Dan. I think that, you know.
Okay.
Oh, this is Cheryl. It was Joseph. He was unmuted for a while. But anyway, what's your question, Cheryl? Oh, Joseph, did you have a comment?
Do we have a pardon?
Anyway, Jim, go ahead. All right, let's go ahead and continue.
Okay, so the alerts are produced in air-ready video that you can actually send to local TV stations and have them broadcast there. We also have a Spanish component that's optional. We can produce alerts in Spanish, voice, and a text translation. Some of the key things are that the accessible alerts, if they average 150 words or less, we can deliver those in 15 minutes. Time critical messages like tornado warnings are pre-recorded for immediate delivery. We operate 24/7, 365. And we monitor the National Weather Service for our clients 24/7, 365. So basically anything that comes through the National Weather Service for watches and warnings, we would automatically produce and send to those that are registered in the program.
And Dan, I'd like to comment on something in case any of you have, if you do get this system, if you have a good relationship with a TV station in your area, one of the convincing points that we used, and thank God it turned out that I wasn't lying, but we were working during Katrina. We really needed a TV station to air an accessible alert. When Katrina was happening and Hurricane Rita was hitting Houston, we didn't have a database to send alerts out because we didn't have any clients. And it's interesting because it has proved to be true. A TV station that airs accessible information, I'm talking about in sign language, the captioning, and it's voiced, their viewership jumped unbelievably. And we had this happen during Hurricane Ike in the coastal area in Texas as well, that we convinced the TV station to do that. And their viewership went through the roof because people say, well, if they're deaf, why do they have their TV on? Or if they're blind, why do they have their TV on? Really, I mean, it's a little frustrating, but they realized the viewership stayed on that station because that's where they were going to get their information. And if we could get we've gone to Washington, we've talked with, the National Association of Broadcasters. We actually were brought there by them. They paid for us to come and talk to them. But because they're not mandated for this, and the real estate on a TV screen is very important to them. They want to have, their station's logo. They want to have this going on and that going on. I mean, that's why when you see an interpreter sometimes on there, they're covered by a logo. You may get a, part of them or whatever. It's really a challenge getting them to understand and just telling them that sign language has no roots in English. Third most taught foreign language in our college. And it's one of the few languages in the world that has no writing system behind it. You would think that they would realize a segment of their population really needs access to this information. But it's still a political battle, I guess, or a real estate battle to get that on the screens. But if you do have a good relationship, if they would just try it, they would be shocked at the increase in their viewership, even by people who are hearing or do not need that access. They will keep it on there because maybe they have someone in their family that is deaf, hard of hearing, or deaf, and they're going to support that access. That's what they're going to keep their TV on. So I wish we had a magic wand to make all of that happen right off the bat, but it is a challenge. And one of the things about the signing up in the database for people who have communication challenges, especially those who are deaf and rely on sign language, the sign-up pages, everything you're asking, what is your name, your address, where do you want these alerts to go to, how many devices, all of that is voice, it's in sign language, and it's Braille accessible. So that's awesome. That's trying to get people to understand. That's why this segment of our population has such a challenge with websites, signing up for anything. And don't get me going on. People say, well, we put on our website, which I know y'all do. I'm not picking on anybody in particular. Cheryl, I'll pick on Cheryl. She deserves it. On the website, if you need assistive services, you can contact so-and-so, or you can call this number or TTY number. First of all, that whole statement is written in English. Put something to click where it can come up in sign language, voiced. I mean, again, Dan, you better take it over because I'm getting on my soapbox again.
All right, well, let's move on to some pictures. Yes.
Well, Cheryl, this is Cheryl. The problem I hear about signing up for anything, people with disabilities, fear, Hold on. They fear that it's a radio. They fear it's a registration. And that they will be marked as a person with a disability.
Mhm. And Cheryl, you're absolutely right. That's one of the things of getting them to realize that this registry is only for this alerting system. And a lot of people are saying, well, you know, now they're going to know where I live. They're going to know this and that. On these registries to receive these alerts, you can sign up and just put your cell number on there, or you can put your email on there. You don't have to give your address. You know, it'd be great if you did, but you know what? I can see, I don't know if I put mine down there. So I agree with you. And people with disabilities, they're targeted. If that gets out, you know, we remember when people were trying to put stickers on cars, and it's like the disability community says, no, I don't want someone following me home and breaking in my house because they know I can't hear anything. So I agree with you, but the registration to receive these alerts, we just need your advice, the device you want it to go to. And we need, of course, the area that you're in, your zip code, to be sure that it coordinates with the alerts that you're going to be getting. So go ahead, Dan.
And who is going to keep this registration updated?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's optional. If we're a standalone service, Dan's looking at me because this is his ballpark and he's going to probably correct me. But if it's a standalone service and we're holding that database, then what we do, if someone wants to sign up, we make sure they're in it. If they want to, let's say they're going to move and they want to quit receiving alerts, if they move from Oklahoma to somewhere else, and then we take them out. But yeah, we try to keep that communication channel open. And so we're responsible. If they're using another alerting system, a mass alerting system like Code Red or Everbridge, then that database is usually held by them. But the database belongs to the city, county, whoever it is that has put this program in place. And it should be secure and only for this purpose. Dan, did I mess that up?
No, I'm done now. I don't have anything else to say, so.
Jill started it.
So we'll try and move through this because I know we're getting a little tight on time, but so this is basically a chart that shows you how the process works. So you have the emergency event that happens, whatever it is, and that notification or that event is noticed by these alerting authorities, whether it's the National Weather Service, Emergency Management, or IPAWS, for example, with FEMA. That message is sent to AHAS, and our team stands 24/7 to be able to receive it and produce that alert in accessible format. And as you can see, it's in American Sign Language, English voice, text formats like this area down here where my cursor is, that is readable by a refresh Braille reader. And, pardon?
I said Braille readers. Yeah.
Right. And then the interpreters that we use are state and or nationally certified. So we take every effort we can to provide the best interpreters to provide this service. You'll also notice that there's a map down here, which goes along with the alert. I'm going to go to the next slide, and I'm going to give you an example. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, but this is what an alert, this alert right here is going to be driven to this phone, and this is what it looks like.
The National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning for your area. Doppler radar observed a developing tornado in your area. If you are in the path of this storm, move to an interior bathroom, closet, or hallway on the lowest floor of your building. Cover yourself with blankets, pillows, or a mattress for protection until the storm is passed.
So that's what the normal process would be for somebody to receive an alert. Virtually 95% of the alerts that we send out are received by somebody on their mobile device. The other thing that we do is we can provide alerts in Spanish audio file along with the translation. Oops, sorry about that.
Esto es solo una prueba. No hay necesidad que tome ninguna acción basada en este mensaje. En el evento de una...
So this is basically the same alert you saw before in ASL and English, but in a Spanish translation. The other thing the system does, it allows a community to create, if you will, an accessible community portal where information can be located that not only will provide an alerting process, but it will also allow for the ability to create preparedness videos that can be used during public outreach, education processes, whichever the community uses. And they can also be sent across the internet if you're doing webinars and things like that. So two of our latest clients are Austin, Travis County, and this is their web page. They chose on their site to highlight COVID-19 information. There's a link to this website down here. You can click that and go to it if you'd like later on. We have Harris County, which began the program in October. And they're doing a lot in terms of preparedness video work. And these are two videos that they have posted on their site. These are also done in Spanish as well.
One of the interesting things that we get feedback on is the fact that the FAQs, you know, it's nice that someone deaf can go there and they're in sign language and be able to have access to this information on a website that normally they've never been able to access at all. So we listen to the communities we serve, and that's how we make the changes to our services. We have people who are deaf and people who are blind. The person who is deafblind doesn't work for us anymore. We helped him write a resume, and he's now teaching ASL in Japan. So lesson learned, don't help anyone with their resume. But this is awesome what these two clients are doing.
So the bottom line is, if you get a chance, if you can go back to this PowerPoint, because I think we've shared it with everybody, you can click on those links and you can see this information come up in accessible formats. And that is a basic description of the AHAS program. Here's some general information about DeafLink and the primary services that we provide and our contact information below. So are there any other questions? Anything that we can help you with?
Billy has a question in the chat.
So,
Billy,
go ahead, Dan.
now Billy asked how long it is from the time of the incident to notices to the time of posting. Billy, we receive information from those three sources, and I'll go back to that slide. Let me see if I can do that real quick.
And, you know, it really depends on the length of the message. If it's active shooter, avoid this area and a map and stuff, that goes out within a matter of minutes. It doesn't take long to get that. It's quite a challenge when we have them send us press releases in the middle of, you know, an event that's a page long, and that's not really a priority, but we can't choose what is your priority. But it can be challenging if it's a very long message.
Let me give you an example on that. During a fire, San Diego County is one of our clients, and their primary reason for having the program is because of wildfires in California. A couple of years ago, we had a situation where they had an ongoing fire that lasted about 2 days. And one of the messages they sent through the system was titled, "How to Clean Ash from Your Pool." And that's a great message. However, it was 850 words long. It was, in essence, a preparedness document. And had they already had that prepared before the event, we could have simply sent out the link to that information in accessible format. But that gives you an example, I think, of the fact that length of the content is important. The shorter and more direct it is to just actionable information, that's really valuable. We can do additional links. In other words, you can take a message up to 300 words. The longer that it goes, the little more time it takes to produce. I would tell you the real value of the system is first to notify, let people know what's going on, and then the additional information or follow-up information about the status of the event. What do they need to do next? During recovery, for example, there may be shelters that'll be set up. That information can go out to that community on where to go to get services. If there's a point of distribution where they're giving out water and food and other things, that same message can go out.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different uses for the system. Yes.
And I wanted to add that, like California and San Diego are our clients there. As you know, the wind can change an evacuation route within minutes. I mean, it doesn't take long for that to happen with a wildfire. And so when the message is short, like this evacuation route is closed, you need to go this. That's a short, actionable information. And these people are watching their phones, because the last thing we or the emergency manager or that family wants to do is hit a firewall. So this is something that's short, to the point, and actionable, and we can get it out and keep them safe. That's the whole point of giving them access to the same information that their neighbor is getting down the street.
So
yeah, go ahead, Cheryl. Cheryl is saying, plus it's as important not to send out false information.
exactly.
Amen. Amen. And that's, we've seen that, and I'm sure y'all have as well. Facebook is alive and well. And one of the things that the communities that we're serving is looking for is that logo, whether it be Oklahoma Emergency Management logo or something in Texas or California or Florida. They're looking for that logo to validate that information. So that's important. And we have a message here from Julia that wants to know how much does this cost for these services. Julia, that goes to Dan, because they don't let me do anything that has math in it or technology. So.
Julia, each one of our programs are tailored to a community. For example, we have systems that are city-based. For example, like Oklahoma City is one of our clients. Fort Worth is a client. We have some that are county-based. So some of the factors that determine pricing is the size of the community that we're asked to be serving. So I'll give you an example. We're working right now with PG&E in California. And we're going through a process with them where there are actually 30 counties that are served by PG&E. And that process to deliver messaging for them is going to be more expensive, if you will, than it would be just for San Diego County.
Yeah, Dan, let them know. They may not know what PG&E is. You want to,
The Pacific Gas and Electric.
yeah, utility company. Yeah.
Utility company. But you also have a case where we've actually given some preliminary numbers to the state of Colorado. So you have a question up there about whether or not you want to go with a statewide program, whether or not you want to go with a regional type program. We've actually given a quote to Denver. So the cost of the program is dependent upon the size of the area that we serve. It's dependent upon risk factors, for example, whether or not you are in a hurricane zone, as an example, versus a tornado zone like Oklahoma City. So you have events that are particular to your area. So in Colorado, you have a lot of winter weather events that happen, and you also deal with fires. Now, most likely you're not going to have a hurricane event, but if you go to Florida, they have about 6 a year. So what we're really in reference to is the amount of resources we need to stand up to make sure that when you call us, that we answer that bell and provide the alert on time and for as many alerts as you need during that event.
Yeah. And Julia, this just isn't, nature related events. Whether it comes to boil water alerts because of broken city pipes, or where there may now be a possibility of E. coli or something that's dangerous to the public, even chemical spills, where this segment of our population needs to know that's to avoid that area, as well as active shooters. And it's so it goes way beyond that, even working with your other departments, whether it be your health departments. We encourage that this just isn't for emergency management. And we're really impressed that a utility company actually came to us and now has our alerting system. And I don't know where they heard about us talking, but evidently they were referring to me talking about people who have children or themselves who are on electric dependency for, oxygen machines, different things. When they have rolling brownouts, if this segment of the population doesn't know and can't plan that, for 7 hours or 8 hours, I'm not going to have electricity, and I have this oxygen tank or oxygen machine, I need to be able to make plans. And this is all important. So for this utility company to step up and be the first utility company in the nation to provide totally accessible alerts, they're definitely on my margarita list, right there with Cheryl.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that, Cheryl. Do what? Cheryl is typing. One thing, our 911. What? Keeps track of is is outages. Who, Dan? So this is for either Denny or Joe. Can you explain or expand on, can you expand on that?
And this is Kate. And the question is to who? I'm sorry.
To Denny or Joe? To Denny or Joe, if they could answer that. Did you need to repeat the question?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the question's for Denny or Joe to expand on that about 911 keeping track of outages.
Yes.
So Denny and Joe, if you're on there, you are muted.
I can't expand on that.
Okay, go ahead.
I cannot expand on that. I'm
Okay,
not
not.
involved in operations.
I'm sorry, this is Deanie.
Oh, Dee Dee.
And I don't know exactly what specifically you mean about 911 keep track of its outages. But the 911, any outages that we learn of are Daryl Branson, often from the PUC, Colorado PUC, will notify us and keep us in the loop of things that he learns about. He sends out an email. Of course, if we have it at our specific PSAP, like for example, I work for Douglas County in Colorado, and when we have outages, of course, it gets notified to us as usually by the vendor. Sometimes by the public because they've called before the vendor even calls, and we get notification that way. And we do our best to, try to get it back online and figure out exactly what the issue is.
Are you asking about 911 outages, or are you asking about electricity outages, power outages?
I apologize. I just remembered who was about hearing about outages in our task force meeting. I might have misspoke. I apologize for that. So erase.
No problem.
I'm going to use that. Okay. One of my questions to the people here at 911 is if you do have, situations or utility companies are having to have shut off electricity for whatever reason, or it goes down, do y'all set up warming centers or places like that for the public?
No, we are 911. They do not. And that might fall under Red Cross.
Oh, okay.
Right. This is Deanie, and that would be possibly something we could set up through emergency management when we activate an EOC, our Emergency Operations Center, and that is something they definitely would get Red Cross involved in, like Cheryl mentioned,
Yeah.
and other entities.
And so that would be information y'all would disseminate to the public where these centers were located and operations and stuff like that. And they would be able to call 911 or 311 or 211, whoever whatever you advertise to get that information, correct?
This is Deanie. Yes, that is correct. It's there's a whole line of things, and I'm not an emergency manager, so I'm not super familiar with the way it goes. But as a whole, I understand an overview of it, and they definitely notify. We have a way of notifying through all the social medias, so Twitter, through the TV, all kinds of different areas on our Facebook app. So yes, we definitely provide that information as soon as it's available.
Okay. And Dana, are you with 911?
Yeah, well, I'm the 911 coordinator, so I'm little on the outside of it. I used to be a dispatcher, but now I'm to the side. I'm more on the legislative and financial side.
Well, at least you know how it works if you've been an operator, and you were doing good on the emergency management stuff. So,
well, thank you. I am so fascinated and so grateful that I've been part of this presentation, because I am going to be reaching out to you guys. I'm super excited about adding this component to our notification and to our website.
Well, that's awesome. It's interesting because it's like any of us. I don't live on social media because I'm going to say because I'm old. It's my age. I don't do that. And if I need to talk to someone, I call them. So, but that's one of the things that we get feedback on is with the disability community. Like, how would I know to go to social media? How would I know that? I need to know at the same time someone gets an alert. And those are questions that get put to me. I can't answer those for other states, counties. I mean, I just listen to the people tell me how they feel about it. But it is a challenge because social media is a great way of getting information out there if you happen to be on it. But if it has to do with an evacuation, an active shooter, or something that's immediate, you may not look at social media till that evening or during your lunch break or something. So it's really important. It is. And thank you for being here. I appreciate that very much.
Mrs. Deanie, thank you very much. And you're absolutely right. We need to do a better job of being all inclusive.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or thoughts or ideas?
Cheryl, yeah.
Oh, Billy? Billy, this is Cheryl for you. Do you have any thoughts?
I did send a message to Kay in the chat. I have been watching this group DefLink for a long time. I know that they were there in Southern California when I was there. We use DefLink often. I have seen DefLink's messages quite a bit. I oftentimes see them come up. However, I have never seen any of their messages talking about like 911 outages.
Okay, we had.
So,
yeah.
Go ahead, Kay.
This is Kay. Dan, when did SDG&E come on?
SDG&E came on about 3 months ago, and they're actually doing testing this week of the system, and they should go live any minute.
Yeah, so it will be the first, like I said, utility company to do this. So they haven't done it yet. They will be the first to put this kind of information out there, which I think will be surprising to the deaf community because they've never had access to this in their language. So we're really excited about it. And I hope it does set a precedence for our nation. Of course, I'm going to think everything, just like you, Billy, we think everything should be accessible because it should. It's just the right thing to do.
So, Kay, turn your radio on so I can read your lips. Your video on so I can read your lips.
I was cheating, I was eating. What can I say? Sorry. Okay, I've got it on, but I'm not showing up. I don't know why.
Oh, did you guys stop sharing? This is Salima.
Oh.
I expanded the video screen because I don't know, you're still sharing your PowerPoint.
Yeah, Dan, you might want to just go ahead and take that down.
Is that better?
There. I was cheating, I was eating. I'm sorry. That's why I closed my camera.
This is Salima. I'm really impressed also, Kay, what you shared about PG&E. I'm in the process of writing up our focus groups from when we talked about people who are deaf, hard of hearing, blind, and low vision were in the focus groups, and we were discussing their smartphone battery drain during extended power outages. And I pulled up the paper, it's not completely done yet, but one of the focus group of people who were deaf and primarily rely on ASL for communication, out of any of the other focus groups, they were like, I have to have my phone. With their smartphone, one of the comments is, where did it go? We said, what would you do? Why is it so important? So participants who are deaf strongly asserted more than any of the other focus groups that their phones were critical to their functioning. Quote, do you realize my phone is my appendage? I have to have it on me, end quote. Quote, my whole life is on my phone. If I don't have it, I am lost, end quote. So like having that access to be able to charge their phones so that they can maintain communications was the key feature for people who are deaf in our focus groups. And they said that they can't even use low power mode on their smartphones because it disables the video functionality. So there are a lot of things that I had no idea about with regards to different groups and their experience of power outage. But in talking to them, they are hyper vigilant about keeping their phones charged. It's like as soon as they hear that there's going to be a storm, they go charge all their devices. They carry chargers with them everywhere they go. I know people without disabilities do this as well, but I don't think it's to the extent that the people in our focus groups were doing it. People who are blind that use paratransit, where especially they won't even use their phones while they're using public transportation or paratransit because they don't know how long they'll be out. So it's ever present on their mind about this need to maintain the charge of their smartphones. And so our study was looking at how to do that and still maintain access to their accessibility features that they need to make the phone usable.
Yeah, I think, that's really interesting because we know now, because I'm hearing, I am so sorry. We know now that a lot of people that I know, and Selena, from working with the community here in San Antonio, that there's deaf out there that don't know about the additional batteries because, and it really frustrates me because when they go and they buy a phone, they get a voucher from the state where they can get a phone for free or whatever device they need. But yet when they go into the facility where they bought the phone, there's no interpreter to explain how to use it, nothing. And so we get these calls, and trust me, you don't want me to explain how to use anything. So, and it's sad because we have tried to encourage the manufacturers to make all the instructions accessible. I mean, voice, sign, Braille accessible, everything. And it's very frustrating because some deaf now know that they need gas in their car because they're going to use that to charge their phone. that, you know, it's those simple solutions that's not being shared because of, yeah, and it really frustrates me. So we point to those things, as you know, and we've done a lot of work together. But the challenges in the community, especially those with literacy challenges, people who are deaf with language barriers, going in and trying to get help to understand how to use that or to buy that, you know, that additional battery is a challenge. And those are really important things, being prepared to be able to receive that information. Sorry, preaching again.
Oh, Julia, this is Cheryl. Do you have anything to add?
I don't at this point.
All right. I have this charger. And it gives me an additional 2 hours.
Really, 2 hours, 2 years, 2 hours, 2 years. Yeah, okay. So, 2 hours. That's a lot.
Lowell, do you have anything to add?
No, this has been very informative, and I will be mentioning this to folks at Washington Emergency Management as something they need to be looking into.
So go ahead and email me and I'll hook you up.
Okay.
Mark? We haven't heard from you. Yeah, Mark is our iPods. What's that? I'm not getting that one. Oh, the engineer. Yeah, for he's the brains.
Hey, this is Mark. Yeah, so in iPods, we're familiar with DefLink. Kay, we go way back. In fact, I was looking through some.
I saw him lip syncing me.
Yeah, it was the first time we hooked up was the National Council on Independent Living. This was 12 years ago, I think. We did a demonstration where we sent an alert and had that video pop up with ASL. It was really cool. So we're real familiar, and I'm glad to see that there are a number of counties that are using it to reach that population. I think, we tell people about it and sing the praises, of how good it is. But sometimes people forget, and sometimes we have to remind them. So perhaps, Kay, if you're interested, maybe we can do a webinar with some of our state and local partners to kind of remind them, hey, this product is out there, and we got these same people asking us, hey, how do we reach these vulnerable populations with these alert messages? And we keep telling them, hey, here's this other thing you can look at, and here's this other thing you can look at, and maybe one of these days it'll click, and then they'll give you a phone call. So if you're interested, maybe we can host you.
I would love to do that. My cell phone number is not private. It's actually out there. I'm not the smartest person in the room by any means. And it's been out there for over 20 years. So I do get calls, and I love the one that says, Kay, go talk to the boss up house white. Oh yeah, right. They accept my calls. I mean, I get it all the time, and it's sad because I we have talked, we've been to the White House, we've done all these things. And it's just a matter, it really needs to be, my voice doesn't mean a lot. And I know you're doing money, but it's really the hands and the people with the disabilities that need to do that. My voice, I just work for you. That's all. I just work for you. And it's just a challenge. It really is. But we know there's funds out there. It's just prioritizing what's really important. So, but thank you. It's nice to see you. So you've already.
And Connie, do you have any comments?
No, I'm going to share the information on our resource center page so that can get out to the other PSAPs in Colorado that weren't able to be here today.
Okay, thank you. I can send you their contact information. And Kay, you have hired me to be your PR.
Right.
Salima. Tell us what you're working on.
So a lot of things as per usual, but I did send you the latest research that we've done on the wireless emergency alerts. And that was when we took all of the database of every alert that has been sent and assessed it for the accessibility of the content of the message. So instead of looking at, alert, notification, sound, signal, and everything like that, what we normally evaluate, we looked at how alert authorities are crafting their messages. And so there's still a very high use of jargon and acronyms, but that we did a comparison pre-WIA enhancement rules and post-WIA enhancement rules, and post-WIA enhancement rules, in addition of 360 characters, have really reduced alerting authorities' reliance on jargon and acronyms, which makes it easier for services like DeafLink to interpret those messages.
Well, and the DeafLink interpreters have NIMS certification, National Incident Management certification. So usually they can break down, the words that they're using, so it'd be nice if they don't use that, right?
Yeah.
It is. And, that's one of the questions. I have a question for Billy. I was asked again, and what is the average reading level? I hate that question. I hate that because what's the average reading level of someone who is born deaf? That is so varied. And if they're asking for access to information, you don't ask hearing people that. And it's really to get the hearing world to understand, it's a different language. It's a foreign language. ASL has no roots in English. It's such a challenge. And myself, I grew up with deaf that didn't read and write anything. So if someone was to ask you that question, what would be your answer for that?
You're asking Billy, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was a teacher before, so just I know the learning average with publications is the 7th grade reading level. Now keep in mind the deaf standards average between a 4th grade reading level. It's been my observation, 4th grade reading level, 5th grade reading level, for the deaf community, typically that's the range that they have. Just as an example, like you would say, my mother went to the store and bought bread. But a deaf person writing it, finish store mother bread. And so that structure is completely different, as you notice. It's not a dumbed down version or reduced version. It's just different with the language syntax. It's different than English.
Right. And some of the examples we've been using for 911 is, you know, we've taken real examples of texts I've gotten, which have said, you know, heart, mind, hurt, help, you know, and for them to understand that maybe they're having a heart attack, you need to know that. So it's actually teaching the I am so sorry. I don't mean to sign, teaching the operators that
that's okay, Kay.
that this is not a child playing with someone's phone, that they need to realize this is a
exactly. Thank
real
you.
message. And we're bringing in the deaf community, we're bringing them in and saying, okay, not Kay saying, you tell them those words are too big, you know, and they're doing that. It's the same thing when we worked with Salima, that we had to encourage, and now the deaf community here in San Antonio is willing to say, I can't read your language, not because I'm dumb, because it's not my language. So we're really excited that same community that worked with Salima and us on different projects is now helping 911. So, but it's hard to find deaf that are willing to admit, and I don't know why, because it's not their language. It's that simple. You don't try and embarrass someone who talks Spanish.
Right.
I'm sorry. Here I'm preaching again.
Mrs. Billy, you're right.
No.
So with that said, oh, this is Gil, Cheryl's interpreter. So with that said, then the scroll that group goes across the bottom of your screen for the deaf would be too fast and too complex because English is not your language, correct?
It's at best their second language.
Yeah, at best their second language. This is why I keep him.
I'm jealous. Okay.
All right. We've got like 2 minutes. Any last comments from anyone?
It's been a pleasure to present to you, and please let us know if you have any questions. Kay, Glenn, or myself are happy to answer. If you need specific information, I know that Julia asked a question about pricing. I can tell you that we have given some preliminary quotes to Colorado on a state level. I'm not sure if they have passed that around yet with any of the committees. But we've also quoted Colorado, or excuse me, Denver County. So there are numbers out there. I'd be happy to share that if that's appropriate. But just let us know what you need to know, okay?
Dan, email those to me.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I feel bad. I didn't want Julia to think we were ignoring her, because I was going to tell her, ask for a quote, and we'll give you one, even if it's, yeah. Dan loves to do math.
Maybe not.
Okay, thank you all. joining in. There are, oh, they have been invited. They who? Oh, no, Jeff Link has been invited to our the emergency management conference for next year.
Excellent.
We will see you there. We will.
You owe me.
I know a lot. I know.
I heard margaritas, Cheryl.
Right.